Our keynote speaker for this morning is Dr. Renate Crawford. Dr. Crawford started on July 1st, 2016 as the University Ambassador and Adjunct Professor of Physics at Miami University. She received her PhD from Kent State University, and she completed her training with postdocs at the Naval Research Laboratory in Washington, D.C., and in the Department of Chemical Engineering at Stanford University. She has 20 research publications and 4 patents in her portfolio. We're so very honored to have Dr. Crawford with us this morning. Would you please join me in welcoming her to the podium?
Thank you, Lynette. Well, thank you for being here this morning. How are you? Good. All right. So as you heard, my name is Renate Crawford. So I have 2 functions here at the university. I think I'm going to take this thing off too if I can. Maybe not. Sort of. There we go. It'll give me a little bit more freedom to move around. So one of them is indeed being, like the first lady of the university, sort of an interesting title, so that's why they called it ambassador. And then the second one is adjunct professor of physics. And for the last 20 or so years, I was indeed a physics faculty member in different institutions and chair of the department and associate dean of engineering and all of that good stuff. But did I always want to be a physicist? Is that something, like elementary school, middle school? I'm like, you know what, when I grow up, I'm going to be a physicist. No. But it was actually in a lab at the Liquid Crystal Institute. I was a sophomore at the time, not quite a physics major yet, that I started really becoming interested in physics. So I saw a whole new side of it. Up to that, I thought, what do physicists do? Well, you slide a block down an inclined plane, or maybe you drop something out of a high building and see how long it takes to hit the ground, and you know how high the building is. Is that physics? Well, maybe part of the introductory physics sequence, but that's not what physics is all about. So I worked on liquid crystals. How many of you high schoolers know what liquid crystals are? Not familiar with them? Okay, let's try a whole different question. Are you, all of you who are familiar with the following, raise your hand and keep it up. Cell phones. Oh. Laptops? Activity trackers? Any of those devices? So you are all very familiar with liquid crystals or LCDs, liquid crystal displays. So yes, you're welcome. So that is what, my first introduction to physics and chemistry. Actually, I worked at an applied chemistry lab as a physicist. So that's what it was all about. A lot of times when you're thinking STEM, you may be thinking in quite of a different way than actually how it affects your everyday life. Just talking about, today. Started my day off, I love to run, started my day off running on a treadmill this morning because it was slightly icy outside. So you're like, okay, well, thanks for bringing that up, but how is that related? Well, just think about the amount of research and development that goes even into just the development of running shoes. I'm sure you're very familiar if you're looking at at track spikes, right? Versus shoes that are used for long distance running or racing flats. They're all very, very different. They're very different for different people, and they depend on their needs and their wants and that particular sport. So enormous amount of bioengineering, mechanical engineering, material science, that is all involved in that. When I was doing a little bit more research into it, I personally believe that there are probably way more scientists and engineers and mathematicians and statisticians who are responsible in some ways for the success of all of our athletes in the Summer Olympics than there were coaches and trainers. You're like, how is that? Well, again, just think about just that one little aspect, the running shoes. Then I was reading articles on the fluid dynamics that they went through in order to design a faster pool. Like, how can a pool be fast? I thought it was the swimmers. Well, There's a lot of waves generated in the pool, right? When especially on the sprint distances. So they were designing pools to absorb some of those waves. They were looking into, for the swimmers themselves, what, swimsuits would be fastest and most beneficial in terms of buoyancy and fluid dynamics and all of that. That just went into that. Then, as a runner, I was looking into the different treadmills that they designed for the Olympic athletes because some of them had some overuse injuries. And they were designing treadmills that sort of mimicked zero gravity so there'd be less impact on their joints, but at the same time really strengthened their muscles and got them ready much quicker to compete again. Actually, I mentioned before that I was a physics professor, and part of that, sometimes I was doing the introductory sequences for science or engineering majors, and sometimes for the pre-med majors. So I must say that the time I brought in my MRI from my foot injury when I had a rupture in my in one of the tendons was actually the time that all of them paid attention on an 8 a.m. class in physics. And because we talked about impact forces and stress and energy absorption and all of that and how that was responsible and how they may have thought that, oh, I just have to get through this physics class in order to go to med school. And then they're like, oh, wait a minute. That's actually really useful. So, running on the treadmill can be boring. So we're still in my run this morning. So use Netflix. So how many of you are familiar with Netflix? Yeah, I thought so. So how did they become so very, very successful? Well, one of the things is, you may have noticed, they know exactly what you like to watch. They use big data very, very effectively. That's another term you may have heard a lot of recently. It's these very large data sets that very large, complex, maybe structured or unstructured, are moving very fast, and so traditional methods were no longer sufficient. So you have a whole new field there, and they can find like hidden patterns. So they actually, what is Netflix looking at in their data? They're looking at watching, trends and what people like to watch. And for you in particular, for each individual person, they'll see, do you watch just one episode of a season, or do you watch the whole season? And if so, do you do that over the span of a few months or a weekend binge watching? They know that about you. And so they know how to tailor their streaming, how to tailor their advertising, how to literally get the most bang for their buck. You may also have noticed if you are even looking for something on Amazon, you don't even have to purchase it. Next time you're on any social media site, oh, how convenient. Ads for that same or similar products just happen to be available to you. Coincidence? I don't think so. Right? Or when you're going to CVS or anywhere else, the coupons that you get are very tailored towards you. So these are all very large and emerging fields, and based on some of the data out there, are probably going to be about 2 million jobs in the next few years that are going to be unfilled, where they need more scientists, engineers, mathematicians, people in the STEM disciplines to fill these jobs. Sounds pretty good, right? When you're about to go to college, you're like, oh. And so sometimes the questions come like, oh, you're a scientist. Isn't that boring or difficult? Or, difficult, of course, at times. Some of these classes are difficult and they are hard and it takes time and effort. I'm not sure if anybody is really born being innately good at all of those things. You got to work at it. But everything worthwhile you got to work at, right? So boring, well, just the opposite, right? We talked already about how some of the things that you're so incredibly familiar with are a result of people in the STEM disciplines. We also talked about how we have all of these growing fields and we need the STEM workforce to fulfill it. But there's a slight bit of a problem there, okay? Well, another thing that I wanted to mention that based on some of the data, that actually women now are the techies. You're like, wait a minute, I thought that women were less represented in the STEM fields. Oh, absolutely. We make up about 50% of the workforce, but only approximately 25% of the workforce in STEM fields. And you're like, okay, so what did you mean by women are the new techies? Well, women actually are more of the users of technology. They also have the buying power. They tend to make more of the decisions in terms of what is bought for the household. They use social media sites more, with the exception of LinkedIn. Everything else they use more. So now we have these jobs that the companies want to fulfill. We have women making more of the purchases and using more of the services and technologies. So companies are very well aware that they need to hire more women in the STEM disciplines. What is another reason for that? Well, just think about when you have a difficult problem to solve. And this could be a homework problem, or it could be a problem with friends. In order to solve some of those problems, what do? You go and you brainstorm. But if it's just people who think exactly the same way, have the exact same thought process, well, do you gain anything from that? Well, you gain time, because now there's 2 or 3 or 4 of you, but you don't gain a solution most likely. Because what do you need? You need to brainstorm, you need to think outside the box, you need people to enlarge that box for you. You need people to come with different backgrounds and perspectives. So going back to the companies, they have jobs they need to fulfill. They know that women are the majority of users. I mean, it's by a slight difference, but still economically that makes a huge difference. And they need to diversify in order to be excellent, and in order to be globally competitive, they need to diversify their workforce. You see a trend here for you, a very interesting and lucrative trend, because, careers in STEM disciplines and those with other quantitative skills do tend to have a higher satisfaction rate and a higher pay rate. So who should think about going into STEM-related disciplines? And I say related because, for example, my daughter is a senior in economics, and when I'm looking at what she's doing with game theory and statistics, I'm like, wow, that is really cool. And it's all very, very much related to some of the things I was working on, even though, from the outside, those disciplines would look very differently. Well, if you like to be creative, if you like to work in teams, if you like to solve problems, and most importantly, if you want to make a societal impact, if you want to make a difference in the world. Because some of the things I talked about today, we were talking about, sports equipment and Netflix. Oh, and the other thing I meant to mention is beauty products, because my husband was just at Procter & Gamble earlier this week, and it's sort of interesting because they brought him through the hair lab. Now, anybody who knows him also knows he's completely bald, so I don't know why they didn't take me. But so what did they do in their hair lab? Well, they're testing their shampoos and conditioners and other products for the stress and strain that the hair can maintain with these different products. What is the critical force at which the hair will break? Can they help it for split ends and all of those other issues? So there are whole fields there, right there. So those are just in my morning routine this morning. But those are really small difference. Yeah, maybe I can say, oh, they sort of improved my life. Really? The hair products and Netflix and a treadmill improved my life? To some extent, but think about the big global problems. You're talking world hunger and drought and other environmental issues, let alone all of those in the field of medicine, right? Those are going to set us apart. Solving some of those problems are going to make a real difference. And if you would like to make a difference, this could be the way to do it, What if you could be the one working, whether it be in agriculture or civil engineering, and solving some of the drought problems? What if you could work on hunger and having food products that have a longer shelf life or don't need to be refrigerated or can be sustained in different parts of the world? Also wouldn't be so bad if you were the one to help cure cancer, right? Or MS or Alzheimer's or anything like that. So if you want to have a career where you're going to be able to make a difference, whether in your community, in your country, or globally, this may be the way to go. So those were just some of the things, that I was thinking about it. Did I always want to be a physicist? No, until I start realizing all of the cool things that you could do with a science degree. Yeah, there's going to be times where it's going to be difficult, and there's going to be times where you may be the only one that looks exactly like you in your class. And, but the way that I look at it is like one of my favorite quotes, forgot about who it was by, but obstacles are what you see when you take your eyes off your goal, right? You go for it, you work hard, and you can make such a difference. I also remember from way back in college or out with my friends, and this guy comes up, and he's pretty cute, and he's using one of the favorite lines in college as an icebreaker. So, what's your major? And I said, physics. He goes, no, seriously. So at that point, I never even asked for his name, moved on, right? So you're going to have those moments, but think about the difference that you can make, what an exciting career opportunities, and you're going to find mentors and people who really want you to succeed. Look at all of the people that you'll be working with today. So look for mentors and role models, and I really hope that our paths will cross again, maybe in the physics classroom. Thank you so very much for being here and in your interest in careers that involve quantitative skills and STEM related. It's crucially important, and I am so glad that you're joining us here on campus in Oxford of Miami. Thank you so much.